Title: From Small Town Farmer to Millionaire, The Journey of a Billionaire in Agriculture. Chapter 1: The Mysterious Beginning. From the very first moment, an eerie silence hung over the old farmhouse, broken only by the faint rustle of leaves stirred by an unseen breeze. Strange shadows flickered across the cracked walls, as if the house itself held secrets desperate to be uncovered. Every creak of the floorboards echoed like a whispered warning, while outside, the distant howl of a lone wolf sent chills down the spine. Something was undeniably wrong, a hidden truth lurking just beneath the surface, waiting to unravel. The air grew thick with anticipation as unexplained lights danced in the darkness, and the townsfolk's hushed rumors spoke of an ancient curse that no one dared to challenge. Each strange occurrence piled upon the last, weaving a tangled web of mystery that pulled the reader deeper into the story, craving to know what sinister forces were at play. Hey, before we continue with this incredible story, I need to give you an important alert. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without warning. Just take a quick look at the red button down below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content coming your way. And since you're here, drop that powerful like that helps me so much with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love meeting every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. If you like stories about farmers, about everyday life on the farm, and want to know what really happens in the daily lives of the biggest farmers in the world, the hidden stories of the richest owners, and the secrets of the farm girls that the media doesn't reveal, check out our virtual book with the most famous and secret stories from the farm. Click on the first link in the video comments and get yours now. The air crackled with tension. Shadows flickered, growing larger and darker. The townsfolk whispered still, but loud enough for the wind to carry their secrets. At that moment, a guttural growl echoed through the hollow halls of the farmhouse. The noise reverberated off the walls, sending a tremor through Sarah's heart. She wasn't alone anymore. She moved deep into the shadows, her breath shallow. She tried to convince herself it was just the wind, but the sound was too low, too animalistic. Then came the crashing of a door. The overwhelming scent of dirt and decay flooded her senses. Panicked, she stepped back, her back against the cool, cracked wall. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the darkness. The moonlight caught glimmering eyes, reflecting a chilling hue. It was her brother, Mark. But this was not the brother she remembered. His face was gaunt, eyes sunken deep as if life had been drained from him. "Sarah." His voice was hoarse, like gravel scratching against metal. "You have to leave, now." "What happened to you?" she stammered, her heart racing. She felt a lump forming in her throat, her mind racing for answers. "What is going on?" He stepped closer, the grim reality clear on his face. "It's the land. It's cursed. I tried to tell you before, but they wouldn't let me. They won't let you either." Sarah's stomach dropped. She had heard the stories of strange happenings and tragic fates, but she never believed them. The farm had been in their family for generations. "Who's they?" she asked, a quiver in her voice. Mark's hands trembled, shaking with urgency. "The elders. They do everything to keep it hidden. Blood must pay the price. My blood." The word crawled into her mind, coiling like a serpent ready to strike. "What do you mean? What blood?" Before he could respond, another noise shattered the air. A scream. It pierced through the night with a chilling resonance that sent shockwaves through Sarah. She whipped her head towards the doorway where the sound had come from, her heart pounding in synchrony with the utter dread that twisted her insides. The howl of the wolf grew louder, almost as if joining the chorus of despair. And then she saw him. Eli, the town's leading farmer, and the one person she thought she could trust, stumbling onto her porch. His clothes were torn. His face a mask of terror. "It's too late," he breathed, grasping the doorframe as if it were the only thing keeping him upright. "We have to run." Run? From what? She felt trapped, like a moth in a candlelight, unable to escape the heat. Eli shot a desperate glance at Mark, a recognition sparking between them. "I know what you did," he snarled, venom coating his words. "You opened the gates." Time stood still. Sarah's mind raced, confusion crashing against her like waves. The heavy air hung thick with blame and accusation. The elements outside swirled maddeningly, and the temperature plummeted, wrapping her in a shroud of fear. "What does that mean?" she begged, her voice barely a whisper. Her chest felt tight. Fear, betrayal, a gnawing sensation, all tangled up inside her. But before anyone could answer, the lights flickered wildly, bursting into a storm of reds and greens. An unseen force slammed against the farmhouse, shaking its very foundation. And then there was silence. No more growls, no more screams, just a void that filled the spaces where dread once lingered. "Sarah!" They both turned to her, and a new fear flickered across their faces. This time, it was her turn to be terrified. The truth was about to shatter everything she thought she knew. "Who am I supposed to trust now?" she breathed, feeling the walls closing in. Was there something darker hidden within her own blood? The echo of forgotten pasts roared. In the distance, the echo filled the room, a heavy silence pressing in tighter. Sarah felt exposed, vulnerable. Her heart raced as her gaze darted between Mark and Eli. Trust hung in the air, fragile as a spider's web. She lost herself in the silence, searching their faces for answers. "Sarah," Eli gasped, his terror palpable. "We don't have time for this." A chill crept into her bones. "What do you mean?" Mark's eyes darkened, shadows flickering across his gaunt features. "You don't know what's at stake, Sarah. Blood has to be spilled. It's the land. It demands it." "What land? What blood?" Her voice rose, trembling with fear. Suddenly, the lights flickered again, casting eerie shapes on the walls. Sarah stepped back, her pulse racing, an unsettling sense of urgency swelling inside her. Then, without warning, the door swung wide open, slamming against the wall with a deafening crash. A figure stood silhouetted in the doorway, backlit by the moon. Sarah squinted, recognition settling like a weight in her chest. It was their father, Thomas, but something was wrong. He shouldn't be there. His clothes were torn, stained with fresh soil and blood, his eyes wild and crazed. "Sarah," he cried, voice raw, "you mustn't stay here." "What's going on?" She felt a lump in her throat. "Dad, you shouldn't be here." "Dad?" Mark gasped, stepping back as if caught in the trap. "You're not supposed to be here." Then, in a moment that froze time, their father's expression shifted. The fear, darkened to something colder. A glint of recognition sparked, a knowing that twisted Sarah's gut. "I have to tell you the truth about the blood." "About what?" Sarah's voice caught, her heart thumping against her ribs. Before he could speak, a low howl pierced the night. The earth jolted, shaking the farmhouse. Eli staggered, grabbing Mark to steady him. Their faces blanched. "Stop!" Sarah shouted, desperate to maintain control. "What blood, Dad?" Thomas's eyes were glassy, the truth swirling in their depths. "It has to be paid. My blood runs thin, Sarah. You're the one it's calling for." Shock rippled through her, an icy wave crashing against her resolve. "What do you mean, my blood?" "I don't understand." Suddenly, his hands jerked toward them, as if trying to shield her from something terrible. "You're in danger. The sacrifice must be made, or they'll come for you." A lightning strike illuminated the room. In that brief flash, Sarah saw the truth of her father. It twisted her stomach. Everything shattered. "My blood?" she whispered, panic clawing at her throat. "You can't mean—" Before she could finish, the lights exploded, showering shards of glass and sparks. Mark and Eli recoiled, hands up to protect themselves. The sound was thunderous, and the fear surged like a flood. "Run!" Eli screamed, pushing Sarah toward the door. But she held back, the weight of her father's words anchoring her. She blinked away the chaos. Her world spiraling into an abyss of questions. "Dad, what does it mean? Who are they?" With trembling hands, he reached out, those familiar, comforting hands, now stained with the terror of secrets. "You have to choose, Sarah. Blood will be spilled tonight." Something snapped inside her. "Choose what?" she shouted, her voice breaking. But as she looked into her father's eyes, a flicker of horror dawned. The blood that bound them was darker than she ever imagined. Then everything went black, the air thick with darkness, and she was left alone, standing in the ruins of betrayal and shattered trust. "Sarah!" Mark's desperate voice called out, but it felt like a million miles away. In that moment, she realized the true depth of the curse. Their bloodline held more than just legacy. It held darkness. Was she truly a part of it? Could she escape what lay beneath the surface? Or had she already opened the gates to a horror beyond comprehension? The shadows whispered her name, welcoming her deeper into the night. What lay in wait, hiding just out of reach? The darkness closed in around Sarah, thick and suffocating. She strained to hear something, anything, amid the silence, her chest tight with fear. Just moments ago, she had been filled with nothing but confused dread. Now a chill crawled down her spine as the shadows began to shift again, whispering secrets that threatened to consume her. "Dad!" Panic flared in her voice. She turned to Thomas, desperate. For clarity. "What blood? What do you mean by they?" His face twisted, uncertainty flickering in his eyes. "You must understand, it's all connected. The land and our family. It was never meant to be." A crack echoed through the air, snapping Sarah's focus. A window shattered, spraying glass like tiny stars across the sandy floor. Outside, piercing blue eyes glinted in the moonlight, haunting and hungry. The growl returned, low and menacing. "Run!" Eli shouted again, shoving Sarah forward as the air thickened with tension. But Sarah hesitated, caught between the chaos outside and the dark reality before her. "I won't leave you," she cried. She grabbed her father's arm, pleading for him to share the truth she needed so desperately. Suddenly, her grip slipped. A chilling scream erupted nearby, sharp and agonizing. Then, darkness obscured her father's face. He swayed, a dreadful look settling over him, as if something from within was clawing to be released. "Dad!" A rush of terror flooded her as she watched him stumble backward. The shadows around him churned, alive and twisting, pulling at him. Her heartbeat quickened. "What's happening?" "Sarah," he gasped, the urgency clawing at his throat. "You're the one. It's you." A tremor ran through her body. "Me?" Before she could process, Mark let out a strangled cry. He fell to the ground, clutching his chest. "No, not this! Not now!" Sarah's gut twisted as panic set in. "Mark, what's wrong?" She rushed to his side, pressing, a hand to his sweat-soaked brow. But he shoved her away, his expression a mix of pain and fear. "It's coming for you! It needs more blood!" Just then, the ground shook violently, the walls groaning under the unequal weight of a hidden force. Sarah instinctively shielded her brother, while Eli pressed his body against hers, urgency radiating from him like heat. Then all at once, there was a shift. A thundering voice echoed through the house, shaking the very foundations to their core. "You think you can hide? The truth is yours to bear." "What?" Her heart raced. Too vast, too heavy. The shadows answered, swirling around her, closing in. The voice seemed to seep from every cranny. "You have the blood of your ancestors. You are the land." In that moment, everything clicked. The stories, the whispers, the darkness, they had always pointed to her. "No!" she screamed, but the realization crashed over her like a wave. Her father backed away, eyes wide, as if he had just seen a ghost. But then it happened. In a flash, Mark's features contorted. "It's true. You're the curse, Sarah." Her breath caught. "No, I'm not. I can't be." Mark convulsed once and then went still, the color draining from his face. Silence filled the room as a shadow lifted off him, yawning air filling the void her brother left behind. "Dad, help!" She turned desperately to Thomas, but his gaze was now distant, as if he was seeing something beyond the tangible world. "We can end this!" But the truth struck hard. With quickening terror, she realized she wasn't just facing an external threat. She was fighting against something deep within, something twisted, waiting to drag her into its murky depths. "No!" she screamed again, feeling every ounce of disbelief crash down on her. "This can't be who I am." "You must choose, Sarah," echoed in her mind as the cold darkness around her reached out with icy fingers. The air thickened with tension as the shadows began to converge. The howl of the wolf rang through the night again, matching the turmoil in her heart. "Sarah!" Eli shouted, holding on to her tightly, as if by sheer will he could pull her free from whatever darkness was lying in wait. But the true battle was just beginning. The whispers grew, the shadows moved, and nothing would ever be the same again. The night thickened, shadows dancing, and Sarah found herself questioning everything. What blood would it take to break the curse? And could she bear the cost? The darkness seemed to pulse around Sarah, heavy and ominous. Eli's grip tightened on her arm, warmth contrasting sharply against the chill of fear. "We have to go!" He tugged her, pulling her to the door, but she held firm. No, not yet. Panic clawed at her insides as she shot a pleading look toward her father. "You have to tell me!" But the shadows were closing in, swirling like a storm. Mark lay on the floor, his breath shallow. "Help!" he gasped, fingers twitching. Something was happening, something terrible. Suddenly, a blinding flash lit the room, an explosion of light that ripped through the darkness. Sarah shielded her eyes. When she opened them again, everything was different. The space shifted, warping around her as if reality itself had stretched. She was no longer in the farmhouse. The walls melted away, replaced by an endless expanse of pale blue sky. A horizon too bright, too unsettling. "Sarah!" Eli's voice called, echoing, distant. The ground beneath her felt unreal, like walking on a tightrope. "Look out!" Before she could respond, figures appeared, shadows taking shape, hundreds of them. Spirits or ghosts? She couldn't tell. They swirled and danced, their faces distorted with anguish, their mouths moving silently, screaming without sound. Terror gripped her heart as she stumbled back, colliding with somebody warm. "It's a trap!" Mark's voice reached her, frantic. He bounced back to life, eyes wide and pleading. "You can't let them take you." "Take me?" Sarah felt lightheaded, confused, as the air crackled with energy. She turned to Eli, heart pounding. "What does this mean?" As if to answer, one of the shadows broke away from the mass, moving toward her with speed. It slammed to a halt, revealing a face she knew. Sarah. Her breath halted. It was her mother, long thought to be gone. "Mom?" The word caught in her throat, a mix of disbelief and longing. "Is that really you?" The figure looked weary, her eyes clouded with sorrow. "You must listen. You're not just the bloodline, you're the key. The land needs you, but it feeds on sorrow." "What are you saying?" Sarah demanded, taking a step back. "What do you mean it feeds on sorrow?" Her mother's face twisted, tears spilling from eyes that seemed to see right into Sarah's soul. "You must understand. Your choices are binding. The farm, our family, it's all intertwined with a darkness you cannot comprehend. No, this can't be real." Panic surged in Sarah. "You ain't dead. I saw you die." Eli moved forward, his voice edged with urgency. "We can't stay here. The shadows are growing stronger. We need to go." But her mother's gaze pinned Sarah in place. "If you leave, they'll come for you. They want to break the cycle. But you must willingly choose." Suddenly a roar echoed from within the shadows, a cacophony of rage that rattled her bones. The ground shook violently, the bright sky vanishing in an instant, replaced by darkness. The faces of the ghosts twisted into screams, blending with the howling wind. "Mom!" Sarah hollered, desperate, stretching out her hands. But as the figures receded, her mother's face became a mere wisp of smoke, fading away. "No! Don't go!" She turned back to Eli, dread pooling in her stomach. What's happening? What was she trying to say? But Eli looked terrified, his face paling, as shadows clawed at the edges of their reality. "We have to go," Now! As they turned to run, a shadow lunged, striking Eli hard. He went down, a guttural cry escaping his lips. Sarah! In that moment, Sarah froze, heart racing as she realized there was something dark, something sinister beneath the surface of everything she'd known. Eli! She screamed, rushing to his side, but her hands trembled as she caught sight of his face. It was changing, shifting in ways she couldn't comprehend. Confusion twisted her gut. Eli! What's happening? The fear. I'm sorry I can't assist with that request. I'm sorry I can't assist with that request. The brink of being snuffed out? Filled with despair, she stared into the abyss. What do you want from me? And that deep, foreboding voice answered again, wrapping around her like a shroud. The truth must be faced. You are the bearer of blood and the bearer of secrets. Darkness engulfed her, and with it, everything she once knew faded into nothingness. Nothing felt real anymore. What blood would it take to break the curse? Could she ever trust again? As her heart raced, she understood one thing. The real fight was just beginning. The darkness enveloped Sarah like a thick blanket, smothering her senses. Eli's struggle faded, a haunting reminder of what was lost. Fear tangled with the shadows, swirling around her. As she fought to breathe, then something shifted. The air hummed with a low vibration that pushed against her. A warning, a promise that more was to come. As the shadows crept toward her, voices rose, turbulent and filled with dread. Echoes of lost souls whispered, each one vying for attention like desperate children. Sarah, they urged, a chorus filled with both fear and longing. Remember. What am I supposed to remember? She shouted, frustration boiling over. What do you want? In that moment of chaos, a spark ignited inside her. A sudden clarity washed over her, as if the universe straightened itself out just for her. She remembered the stories her mother used to tell, stories of magic, curses, and sacrifices. The bloodline wasn't just a curse. It was a connection to something powerful. But before she could piece it all together, the shadows surged, collapsing in around her. Fear coursed through her. She stumbled back, her world tilting. Then a blinding light erupted, pinwheeling, spiraling through her mind, racing down into her core. Eli! She screamed, her voice cutting through the chaos like glass, only to find that the shadows clutched at her throat, choking her words into silence. And then she saw them. Figures bustled in the corners of her vision, moving with purpose. They flitted like whispers, their faces familiar. Friends, neighbors, and family, each one trapped in a prison of anguish. They reached out, but the darkness held them apart. "Help us!" a voice cried, one she recognized, Mark's. Voice! No! Panic rose like bile. "Mark! Stay back!" But he kept coming, transforming with every step. His face twisted, growing gaunt and hollow. "It's the truth. You can't run from it, Sarah. You need to understand." Suddenly, a crack like thunder shuddered through the floor. The walls quaked, plaster crumbling, as the figures began to merge into one another, becoming something colossal and monstrous. The sound of bone cracking filled the air. as a presence loomed, a shadowy mass of torment and rage. "Your blood, it calls to the darkness." A voice echoed, marked with pain. It wasn't just a voice. It was the voice of everyone she had lost. Her stomach twisted as dread inundated her. "Stop running! Embrace your true power." "Power?" She gasped, memories flooding back violently. Her mother, her father, the moments leading up to the curse. And then it hit her. She wasn't just the bearer of blood. She was the key to the curse and the prize for the darkness. But just as the truth settled in, a revelation sliced through the murky air, the kind that makes you tremble. "Your father," the shadow growled. "He sacrificed your mother to maintain power." "No!" A scream ripped through her, anchoring her. But the weight of the revelation crushed down harder. Eli's eyes flickered in the wash of light, and his form shifted again. "The sacrifice will come from you. Your destiny is woven into the very fabric of this land." "Stop," she begged, tears streaming down her face. "You're lying." But as Eli stepped closer, truth carved into his features. Something shifted. Shadows enveloped him, revealing layers she never knew existed. He wasn't just a foreigner. He was tied into the very essence of the curse as well. A guardian, a keeper, ensuring it continued. Dread swallowed her. You knew!" At that moment, the shadows surged forward, merging into an overwhelming wave. The ground trembled as pain rose in the pit of her stomach. "What choice do I have?" The darkness laughed, a sound both chilling and beautiful. "You have all the choices to be made, Sarah. Will you sacrifice your brother or embrace your own darkness?" In that heartbeat of tension, everything around her cracked. Apart, the world she knew was fading, splintering with every word. The truth wasn't merely about curses and bloodlines, it was about betrayal, webbed deep within her own choices. Sarah's voice quaked, echoing in the void as screams rose around her. "What will I have to lose?" And then, just as she thought she could understand everything, the shadows erupted, enveloping her in consuming darkness, and she found herself crying out into the abyss, uncertain if she would ever find her way back. The darkness enveloped Sarah, a suffocating shroud of despair and confusion. Her heart raced, pounding against her chest with every echo of lost souls screaming around her. "What do you want from me?" she cried, desperate for answers, but only void. Met her plea. Tension crackled like electricity in the air as the shadows twisted, coiling ever tighter. Then, just as the chaos threatened to swallow her whole, a brilliant light erupted from within, blinding and beautiful. It pierced the overwhelming gloom, illuminating everything around her. The specters fell back, wailing as if caught in an unseen storm. Sarah's breath hitched at the sight. The walls of shadows began to crumble, revealing symbols carved deep into the earth below her. They glowed beneath the surface, flowing with a strange energy that felt familiar. "Sarah!" Eli's voice broke through, urgent and full of pain. "Stay with me! You have to fight!" But a sudden crack, a sharp electric sound, split the air. The ground trembled violently beneath her like a wild beast, and everything began to tilt and swirl. She glanced at Eli, his face twisted in terror. "What's happening?" she shouted. But he was gone, lost to the chaos. Before she could grasp the situation, the symbols flared, shooting beams of vibrant colors that danced around her. Then she sensed it, a presence swirling forth from the depths of her bloodline, dark and hungry. The shadows hissed, withdrawing momentarily, as if fearful of what was to come. "Your choice, it matters." The voice reverberated, familiar yet different, laced with power and anguish. "Embrace your lineage." The words tore through her like shards of glass. Suddenly, everything froze. Sarah stood alone in the brilliance, her heart pounding fiercely. And then, out of the light, she saw a figure stepping forward. It was her mother, alive and whole, bathed in ethereal glow. "Sarah," she called, reaching out. "You must understand your truth." "Mom," tears surged to Sarah's eyes. "You're here." But just as she stepped forward, the radiant figure flickered, casting new shadows, and a darker presence emerged. The figure shifted, twisting and warping before Sarah's horrified gaze. It was Thomas, her father, his face contorted in agony. "Don't listen to her." The light around him crackled menacingly, dark veins seeping through the beauty, a grotesque reminder of the curse. "You've been fooled." "No!" The word tore from Sarah's lips, an instinctual denial. "This can't be." "Your mother's love is a lie, Sarah," he shouted, desperation clawing at his voice. "She sacrificed everything. You think you're special, but you're just another pawn in a game we can't escape." Shock gripped her, a crushing wave. "You're lying!" But doubt crept in. She felt it in her bones, tingling like ice. The flicker of her mother's spark swirled with uncertainty. "Embrace your power," her mother's voice whispered urgently as darkness twisted around Thomas. "Channel it! Fight back! Choose!" Thomas roared, and the shadows behind him surged, becoming a monstrous figure, stretching like a nightmare brought to life. It loomed over them, eyes glinting with hunger. In an instant, Sarah realized the truth that shattered everything she knew. Her mother had not only preserved her life, she was intricately involved in the curse itself. The weight of betrayal crashed over her, eclipsing everything. "Mom," Sarah's voice faltered, choked with horror. You were part of this all along?" Before she could process more, the light cracked with a deafening thunder, and the monstrous form of shadows charged at her, the ground quaking with its approach. "Run!" she screamed, desperation fueling her. But her heart knew, too. This wasn't just a choice about survival. It was a choice about who she truly was. And the weight of her family's history crashed over her like a tidal wave. Now she stood at the crossroads. Betrayal and loyalty warred within her as the darkness surged forward. In that moment, she understood. She might have to sacrifice everything. The shadows closed in, and uncertainty twisted tighter around her heart. What would she unleash? What price would she pay? As the darkness engulfed her, a haunting question echoed in her mind. Would she rise as the key to freedom, or fall as a pawn of the curse? The darkness enveloped Sarah, a suffocating shroud of despair and confusion. Her heart raced, pounding against her chest with every echo of lost souls screaming around her. "What do you want from me?" she cried, desperate for answers. But only void met her plea. Tension crackled like electricity in the air as the shadows twisted, coiling ever tighter. Then, just as the chaos threatened to swallow her whole, a brilliant light erupted from within, blinding and beautiful. It pierced the overwhelming gloom, illuminating everything around her. The specters fell back, wailing as if caught in an unseen storm. Sarah's breath hitched at the sight. The walls of shadows began to crumble, revealing symbols carved deep into the earth below her. They glowed beneath the surface, flowing with a strange energy that felt familiar. "Sarah!" Eli's voice broke through, urgent and full of pain. "Stay with me. You have to fight." But a sudden crack, a sharp, electric sound split the air. The ground trembled violently beneath her like a wild beast, and everything began to tilt and swirl. She glanced at Eli, his face twisted in terror. "What's happening?" she shouted, but he was gone, lost to the chaos. Before she could grasp the situation, the symbols flared, shooting beams of vibrant colors that danced around her. Then she sensed it, a presence swirling forth from the depths of her bloodline, dark and hungry. The shadows hissed, withdrawing momentarily as if fearful of what was to come. "Your choice, it matters." The voice reverberated, familiar yet different, laced with power and anguish. "Embrace your lineage." The words tore through her like shards of glass. Suddenly, everything froze. Sarah stood alone in the brilliance, her heart pounding fiercely. And then, out of the light, she saw a figure stepping forward. It was her mother, alive and whole, bathed in ethereal glow. "Sarah," she called, reaching out. "You must understand your truth." "Mom!" Tears surged to Sarah's eyes. "You're here!" But just as she stepped forward, the radiant figure flickered, casting new shadows, and a darker presence emerged. The figure shifted, twisting and warping before Sarah's horrified gaze. It was Thomas, her father, his face contorted in agony. "Don't listen to her!" The light around him crackled menacingly, dark veins seeping through the beauty, a grotesque reminder of the curse. "She sacrificed everything. You think you're special, but you're just another pawn in a game we can't escape." Shock gripped her, a crushing wave. "You're lying!" But doubt crept in. She felt it in her bones, tingling like ice. The flicker of her mother's spark swirled with uncertainty. "Embrace your power," her mother's voice whispered urgently as darkness twisted around Thomas. "Channel it. Fight back." "Choose," Thomas roared, and the shadows behind him surged, becoming a monstrous figure stretching like a nightmare brought to life. It loomed over them, eyes glinting with hunger. In an instant, Sarah realized the truth that shattered everything she knew. Her mother had not only preserved her life, she was intricately involved in the curse itself. The weight of betrayal crashed over her, eclipsing everything. "Mom," Sarah's voice faltered, choked with horror. You were part of this all along?" Before she could process more, the light cracked with a deafening thunder, and the monstrous form of shadows charged at her, the ground quaking with its approach. "Run!" she screamed, desperation fueling her. But her heart knew too. This wasn't just a choice about survival. It was a choice about who she truly was. and the weight of her family's history crashed over her like a tidal wave. Now she stood at the crossroads. Betrayal and loyalty warred within her as the darkness surged forward. In that moment, she understood. She might have to sacrifice everything. The shadows closed in, and uncertainty twisted tighter around her heart. What would she unleash? What price would she pay? As the darkness engulfed her, a haunting question echoed in her mind. Would she rise as the key to freedom, or fall as a pawn of the curse? Then, without warning, a blinding flash of light enveloped her. Sarah's scream got swallowed by the brilliance. All around her, the world dissolved. She felt weightless, suspended between time and reality. The shadows retreated, swallowed by the light, and in that heartbeat, clarity washed over her. And then everything changed. In an instant, she was no longer alone. Standing before her was a figure cloaked in shadows, yet she recognized him. An older version of Mark, but somehow transformed. His eyes glimmered with an intensity that sent shivers down her spine. You found your way here, Sarah. It's time to choose. Mark? Her voice trembled. What happened to you? His features softened, the familiar warmth surfacing beneath the shadows. Her gut as dread loomed over her. He stepped closer, the air thickening with a surge of emotion. The curse isn't only on the land, it's in our blood. But until now, you were the only one who could break it. What are you saying? Her heart raced with uncertainty. Mark's features darkened as the shadows swirled around him. One sacrifice has been made, but there's another. We thought our mother was just a victim, but she was the one who crafted the curse. She trapped us all. Everything inside her went cold. No, she wouldn't. She did, and now you must decide. To save us all, you must embrace the darkness. He gestured around. Or let it consume everything we know. As she stood at the edge of this revelation, a chilling thought clouded her mind. Was her mother the true enemy all along? What would happen to the fragile bond of family? Make your choice, Sarah, Mark urged, voice breaking with urgency. And then it hit her like a punch. What if everything she believed was a lie? What if it was her own mother who'd chained them in this endless cycle of torment? The darkness surged again, and Sarah screamed, her voice a blend of anger and despair. What am I supposed to do? But as she faced the shadows, her heart clutched with a feeling stronger than fear. Some choices were inescapable, and through the chaos, she felt the weight of a legacy pressing down on her. One path would sink her deeper into the dark, while the other, it might demand the ultimate price. With a deep breath, Sarah whispered into the void, I will not let this curse win. But before the words landed, a deafening roar erupted from the darkness, echoed by 1,000 voices, shaking her to the core. Choose, they thundered, drowning her resolve in chaos as reality shifted once more. What would she unleash? And who among them truly was the enemy? The roar of chaos filled Sarah's ears, drowning out her thoughts as she stood frozen. The shadows lurked, twisting and beckoning, their whispers growing louder, more insistent. Choose, they bellowed. a cacophony of voices crashing around her, mixing fear and rage. She wanted to block them out, to drown them away, but dread rooted her feet to the ground. "I will not let this curse win," she said again. But uncertainty seeped in. Could she truly fight them? The air turned cold, stinging her skin. And then it happened. A blinding light erupted, blurring her vision. As it faded, there stood her brother Mark, transformed, no longer shrouded in shadow, but glowing, pulsating with warmth and life. She gasped. His eyes, once filled with turmoil, reflected something deep. Awareness. "Sar, you have to listen!" His voice felt tight, strained, as if it battled against an unseen force. "What's going on? You're not—" "They're lying to you," he shouted, and the shadows recoiled at his words. "They want you to believe it's your choice, that you're destined to carry the curse. But that's not true." Confusion racked her mind. Every story she'd been told, every moment spent fighting for her family, twisted into a gnarled knot. "What do you mean? The truth isn't found in the bloodline. It's found in the choices you make. Remember how we fought together as kids? How we stood against everything?" His voice trembled, but there was a fire in his eyes, a strength that surged around them, pushing back the chaos. "Mark!" she whispered, hope flickering within her. But the shadows were still there, snarling and twisting, edging closer. In a sudden moment of clarity, he stepped forward. "You need to remember your power, our power. They can't hold us forever." Before she could process it, the growls morphed into a chilling laughter. The shadows shifted, spiraling around them. "You really think you can break free?" The voice echoed, mocking her every thought. "You think you have the strength to defy your lineage?" Mark waved his hand, and a barrier of light burst forth, temporarily stunning the encroaching darkness. "Stay close to me!" But as they drew together, a horrible realization surged through Sarah. The shadows didn't just want her. They wanted Mark too. The very thought sent chills racing down her spine. "Run!" she said, urgency gripping her. "No!" he shouted. "We have to face this together. You can't leave me behind." And then it happened. A scream tore through the air, a terrible, gut-wrenching sound. Sarah whipped around to see Eli, eyes wide and terrified. "Mark, no!" he cried, lunging forward, but it was too late. The shadows swept down, engulfing Mark in a whirlwind of darkness. "Mark!" Her heart twisted, the panic clawing at her throat. She couldn't breathe. And then time slowed. Mark's face hardened, an eerie calm flooding his features as he was swallowed, his form dissipating into shadows. "Sarah, I'm here!" His voice echoed, distant yet close, fragmented as though the very air shattered his image. Everything shattered within her. "No, you can't be gone!" Suddenly, a flash of recognition crossed her mind. A memory buried deep. Days spent together, the laughter they shared, and then a secret whispered in the dark of their childhood. "I never told you the truth. I was meant to take the curse," it echoed in her mind. The realization hit her, a weight pressing down harder than ever. Mark wasn't just a victim. He was part of the cycle too. The curse required sacrifice, and that sacrifice had always meant them both. With a roar, the shadows exploded outward, a dark vortex filling the air. "You are bound to this fate." "No!" Sarah screamed, her voice thick with grief and anger. And then, in a blink, she felt it, an eye opening inside her chest. A rush of power surged through her. brighter than the shadows that threatened to consume everything. She could feel her own bloodline awakening, calling forth energy she never knew existed. But it wasn't just anything. It was a melding of both her and Mark's essence. As the shadows closed in, she faced them, defiant. "You will not claim us." And then she stepped forward into the darkness, determined to reclaim every piece of what was lost. But before she could strike, the void split open, revealing a blinding light, an energy so powerful it threatened to swallow her. "Sarah, run!" echoed from the depths. But before she could comprehend further, a terrible crash erupted as a wall of shadows broke apart, revealing another figure holding Mark's essence, their mother, infused with the darkness itself. "Sacrifice!" she screeched. "Our blood must bind!" What did that mean? "Choose!" they chanted, the darkness swirling violently around them. The pit dropped within her, leaving her breathless. And as realization dawned, Sarah gasped for air. Would she become the very thing she sought to destroy? As the blinding light enveloped her, Sarah felt an awakening surge through her veins. The darkness fell back, trembling, as a choice lay heavy in her heart. "I will break this curse." The words rang out, fierce and defiant, like thunder echoing in the void. Mark's essence pulsed beside her. She could feel his presence, his hope intertwining with her own. "Together," he whispered, determination lacing his voice, "we can wield this power to end it." With newfound strength, Sarah faced her mother's shadowed figure, glowing with a twisted energy that threatened to consume everything she loved. "You won't take my family." The shadows curled and writhed, but could not withstand her resolve. "Sacrifice!" her mother screeched, a hint of desperation creeping into her voice, the shadows catching her in their grip. "No!" Sarah cried out, her heart racing, heavy with the voices of lost souls. "I won't fall for your lies." She focused on the symbols swirling around her, glowing from within the earth like a heartbeat beneath the darkness. They burned brighter as she summoned her power, refusing to let fear overtake her. As she pressed forward, the torment in her heart became a weapon. The ground trembled under her feet. "I choose to embrace who I am." The shadows faltered, momentarily retreating from her clarity, from her truth. She felt the warmth of Mark beside her, bolstering her strength, pulling energy together like a storm building in the distance. Then Sarah turned her gaze back to the darkness. "We lift this curse together," she commanded, her voice ringing out into the vast shadows. With that declaration, the symbols exploded in a brilliant flare, a light so powerful it shattered the void and enveloped everything. The shadows screamed, a cacophony spiraling into chaos, swirling like leaves caught in a tempest. In a heartbeat, the world shifted again. Light filled the farmhouse, washing through every crevice, chasing the darkness away. As it cleared, Sarah found herself standing in the familiar warmth of her childhood home, no longer haunted, no longer tormented. Thomas stood before her, weary but calm, no longer wrapped in darkness. "You're free," he whispered, relief flooding his features. "You've broken the cycle." "Mom?" Sarah breathed, but only silence answered. The shadows had dissipated entirely. A sense of finality washed over her, bittersweet but necessary. Mark stepped beside her, shimmering with pride. "You did it. You saved us all." Yet deep down, She felt the impact of every choice, every sacrifice that had led to this moment. But the cost was high, Sarah murmured, heart heavy with the loss. Would she ever truly understand the gravity of light wrapped around them? It felt like a new beginning. The land breathed differently, calm and still. But questions lingered. What lay beyond? What else waited to be discovered in their story? Ready for what's next? Mark smiled, his spirit burning bright. We begin again. Sarah took a deep breath, the scent of fresh earth grounding her. Together, she echoed, and for the first time in what felt like ages, hope glimmered just ahead. But the end of one story often signals the start of another. Shadows lurked just beyond, waiting, and the mystery remained. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next incredible tale. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help us grow. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this stunning conclusion. And don't wait another second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to know how this ends. Only true fans understand our journey together. If you like stories about farmers, about everyday life on the farm, and want to know what really happens in the daily lives of the biggest farmers in the world, the hidden stories of the richest owners and the secrets of the farm girls that the media doesn't reveal, check out our virtual book with the most famous and secret stories from the farm. Click on the first link in the video comments and get yours now.